Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. Is it too soon for a 53-man roster projection show? Hell no, it's not. We're going to do that today. Andrew Chachere already did one for InsideTheBirds.com. It's been up there. Really thought his was interesting, Adam. And it honestly, I had a lot of trouble with this one, man. There are a lot of players from a Super Bowl roster that I did not have making this year's 53-man as we
really?
go.
Oh.
Yeah, more than I thought. I mean, we'll get into it, but there's some really difficult decisions, especially in the defensive backfield at secondary, which has been remade. And then, of course, that running back wide receiver room there and the return specialists enter the equation. So there's a lot going to it. This is going to be a really fun episode. I saw yours. I don't know if you had a chance to check out mine. They're certainly a little bit different in certain areas. So this should be a pretty fun show.
Yeah, we're actually just do offense on this show, and then we'll do defense on that following show.
Correct.
But I noticed you, like, I wasn't finished all of yours. Yours and I are pretty close, but see, you and I have talked about this before. It's how do they look at their depth on the offensive line, for instance? I think it's skinny. I think they need to add somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just looking at the guy. We're just going to look at the guys who are on the roster now as of Thursday the 11th. And when we do defense, we'll look at that as well for Monday's show. But it's the first time we've ever done this. And obviously, after Andrew Chachere did it, we were like, all right, well, let's do ours here. I thought this was a good idea.
Yep, definitely. And I like breaking it up into two parts, two shows, because we can really go thoroughly into, offense and then defense, not have to skim through our reasons. So a couple of things. The schedule is going to come out tonight. Already some things are leaked. The Eagles are playing on Christmas Day. We know that, but playing the Giants, 4:30 kickoff on Fox. Should be an interesting one. And apparently Jason Kelce's mother is now in the news breaking business because according to Donna Kelce, week 2 is going to be the Eagles versus the Chiefs, which I believe was at Arrowhead this year.
Oh, week 2. Okay. Oh, so it isn't the Thursday opener, huh?
I thought she said week 2. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that she said it was week 2. I'll double check on that. But either way, we know the Chiefs and Eagles are having a rematch, and now Donna Kelce has entered our terrain here with this insider information. But what's also really cool about the schedule is we're going to have Greg Cosell back with us. We told you he'd be back soon, even though the last intel with Greg Cosell ran last week. So what we're going to have Greg do with us, and this is really cool, is he's going to break down the schedule. Now, we're not going to do win-loss with Greg. He doesn't do that kind of thing. But what he's going to do is go through every team that the Eagles play and kind of go through what they do, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and sort of analyze the matchup. So we're going to do that fairly soon. I believe next week is when the first one will be out. Is that correct?
Yep. That should probably debut Wednesday or Thursday next week. Looking forward to that. Yeah, we've never done this before. The comments and people wanting Greg back were very strong, and it was kind of a no-brainer for us. So we pitched something to him. He liked the idea. He goes, "Oh yeah," and who's a better expert at knowing these rosters than Greg in this country? So in the NFL world. So we figured, why not do it?
Absolutely. Speaking of why not do it, we had our first question and answer session, recorded one that we did with our Patreon subscribers, where they submitted questions. We answered them in a video. It was about a 25-minute video. It wasn't live. It wasn't with them. We just answered their questions as we recorded sort of like a separate podcast. And that went up, on our Patreon platform on Wednesday. So really excited about that. It's about a 30-minute show. It was just for our subscribers. So if you want to have the opportunity to do that with us, along with the Discord chats with Adam on Wednesday, our 2 other bonus podcasts per month, and everything else that we're doing on Patreon, it is it's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds, just so everybody knows. And we will continue to add to our Patreon platform, thanks to all those who have hopped aboard in the last week or so. Reminder that Inside the Birds is presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. All right, we do have some news items, Adam, that to get to before we get in on the 53-man projection on offense. So it's kind of funny because we were discussing a little bit of that special teams safety picture in a recent pod, and I guess Andre Chachere, who you and I both like, we think he contributes on special teams and seems to make a play when he is out on defense. Well, the Eagles disagreed and they waived him, and he got claimed already.
Yeah, there's always this saying in the NFL: if you're going to waive someone, you have to assume that you're going to lose them,
Hmm.
and they were willing to do it. He was not he's not a veteran veteran, so he's subject to waivers. And who else but the Jonathan Gannon Cardinals claimed him? Obviously, he knows the defense. Not they don't play very much of defense unless somebody gets hurt, but good special teams player. And that does look, they're down a player, and they had to move someone because there was a corresponding move to be made when they signed Dan Arnold. The transaction, as I understand, went in Monday, though they announced it. But from a league standpoint, it went in Monday, so they had to cut someone Monday. And Chachere was that, and he was claimed off waivers, as we said. So that leaves him with, at the safety position, Edmonds, Blankenship, Wallace in the last year of the deal, Sidney Brown, Justin Evans on a 1 year deal, and Tristan McCullum, who's a guy I know they like the height, weight, and speed kind of thing. So still plenty of safeties. And again, it's a position where they have some depth, but they certainly a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles' special teams wasn't that great, especially the coverage units. We know were not that great last year. So I don't know if they viewed Chachere as a part of that or one of the better guys on a bad unit, but obviously they felt he was expendable. And now he kind of takes on a role in Arizona that's similar to the one when he first came over to the Eagles. Remember, when he came over to the Eagles, he had prior experience, I want to say, with the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
And that's where
yeah.
yeah, that's where Gannon had first started before he went to Indianapolis and then came to Philadelphia. So now he's just doing the Gannon pipeline thing where he's joining him out in Arizona.
Actually, he was not with the Vikings.
Was it the Colts?
Yes, correct. It was
That's
Colts.
where it was. Okay.
That was, yes, correct. Wow, he's been on Houston, Detroit, Arizona many years ago. The Colts, as you mentioned, the Eagles, now the Cardinals. Holy smokes, he's only 27 years old now. I'll say I should update this though with Arizona. He actually, because they've got a bunch of street free agents on the roster, he actually could get snaps at safety. Wow, as I look at, they don't have a depth chart now. I'm just looking at their safety roster.
Right.
Holy smokes! Wow, that's okay. I can see why they did that. But as you said, before we move on here, special teams unit. I know their coverage numbers were better in the second half. It's still not good enough. And we'll see. We'll see who will be that. We'll see if one of these undrafted free agents could make it. We'll see who they've got a coverage unit. So it's another thing we'll be looking at during OTAs and training camp.
No doubt about it. All right. As we mentioned, Eagles are going to play the Giants Christmas Day, 4:30 kickoff. And just to refresh people what to expect from the schedule standpoint, the Eagles have statistically the most difficult schedule in the NFL this year based on how last year's opponents finished. If you remember, going into last year, I think they had the third easiest schedule. There were two teams tied at first. I don't remember who. I think Giants are one of them. But the Eagles had the third easiest schedule. Well, now 1 year later, completely different. And Adam, that's you look at some of the teams. It's pretty obvious why. They'll be playing Buffalo. They'll be at home, right? They'll be playing San Francisco at home. They'll be playing Minnesota, a playoff team from last year, at home. They'll be playing Miami, a playoff team from last year, at home. And on the road, they're going to have to play the Chiefs. They're going to have to play, and this doesn't count into the formula because the Jets weren't that good last year. They were okay, but obviously the Jets expected to be a lot better with Aaron Rodgers. And then same thing you can say with the Rams, you would think will have Matthew Stafford. I don't know how good the Rams are going to be, but they're different when they've got Stafford. But also playoff team last year, Seattle. They'll have to play Seattle on the road along with New England on the road. That's a lot of teams that at very worst are usually a 500 team at worst.
Yes, I always do my own strength schedule. I don't even look at last year's because it doesn't mean anything. It's all about what the rosters look like now. However, the strength of schedule numbers that the NFL put out, they're pretty accurate in terms of, okay, what does the team look like now from last year? Okay, the Bills should be just as good. Niners, okay. Brock Purdy for a full season, but the roster's outstanding. Minnesota, the secondary still shaky. I don't think they'll be as good as last year. I mean, how could they win so many close games, right? Cardinals are going to be bad. Dolphins should be good. They're at the Bucks. There's no Tom Brady, but they were a playoff team with a losing record. You mentioned the Jets. You're absolutely right. They're going to be better with Rodgers, so that'll be tough to match up. So their strength. So the Jets the Jets weren't a playoff team, but they'll be stronger, so they could offset the Bucks. You don't have Brady now, and they're very questionable quarterback. And then Seattle, there are questions about their defense. But again, it's always when I do my strength of schedule, I look at three things: roster, coaching, and any philosophy changes.
Right.
They have a new OC, and this goes into coaching. Is there anything going to change here, and can it be exploited? Coaching's really big to me, and obviously the roster. Because if you just go by last year, you're not taking into account what changes have been made, and some are numerous. It just so happens that a lot of the teams they're playing, over half of them are pretty much going to be good or they're better than last year. But then you've got the Bucks, no Brady. There's no way they're a playoff team. I just can't see it.
I agree.
Right?
Right. I agree. But of these 11 teams, though, I think 9 look like playoff teams to me right now. So, and that doesn't mean all 9 will make it, right? But the only 2 that don't are, like you said, Tampa Bay and Arizona. Everyone else, to me, could be easily a playoff team.
Well, Minnesota's the one. Hey, there's no way they're going to win so many close games.
Well, no, but I still think that they can be a 7th seed. I mean, they're
yeah, it's a wild card, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, there's no Aaron Rodgers in that division, so yeah, Minnesota gets a huge break there. But Bill O'Brien now is the OC for Mac Jones. That's huge, so they should be better. But I always look at when I do it from every team before the season starts. And also base when I travel to training camps, kind of what they look like. And I'll admit I'm not always going to be right. The Jaguars shocked me. I still cannot believe how good they were comparatively to the year before. That's the beauty of it. We think we know, but we really don't know. So anyway, and also no international game for the Eagles, thank goodness.
Yes.
There are 5 of them. And how about the Jaguars playing back-to-back weeks in England?
That's amazing. Do they just stay? I guess they're going to stay out there, right?
Yeah,
they're going
to. That was my thought.
That's crazy. That's just like the NFL does not care about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, yeah, but again, see that the owner Shad Khan, they always have games over there in
right.
England.
He likes it, I think. Right. He owns one of the soccer teams out there.
Exactly. He has a soccer team, and the league isn't saying this, but there continue to be rumors that someday that if anyone moves to England, it will be the Jaguars. And Shad keeps saying they're not, but I hope not. But the Jaguars, what a story they were last season.
Definitely. All right, let's move on. We'll talk real quick about, we'll get into our offensive 53-man roster projection. First, we're going to tell you we've been talking about this for a while. It's Ocean Casino Resort's 5th birthday this summer, and summer's creeping up here. They can't wait to celebrate with you. Join Ocean for exciting promotions and sweepstakes, headline entertainment, the best day life and nightlife lineup in AC, the debut of the birthday bar, exclusive local collabs and partnerships, commemorative 5th birthday merchandise, and so much more. Don't miss stunning fireworks and unique events all summer long. Ocean Rewards members will enjoy over $5 million in gifts and prizes, so be sure to sign up for an Ocean Rewards card to get on the fun next time you visit. That's Ocean Casino Resort, the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. All right, let's do this offensive roster projection. There are some positions, Adam, that are easier than others. I would say quarterback was pretty easy, and you and I were on the same page with how many they're keeping and who they were keeping.
Right. Even if like Ian Book or Tanner McKee outproduce or outperform Mariota in training camp, they're not cutting Mariota because they owe him $5 million fully guaranteed. So that's you're not walking away from that. Now, Ian Book was on the roster after he was playing from the Saints the entire season. So you would think because he fits what they do, because he can run RPO and all that, and from what we understand, he's really well liked in the building. So because of that, or by the coach, whoever the case may be, I mean, Tanner McKee, could he beat him out? Sure. He's just different from what they drafted. I know when people were asking us, it's a great question. Like, why Tanner McKee? Like, why would they draft somebody who doesn't fit? Because Mariota fits, Ian Book fits, the type of style of offense they play, and it's just a guy that they had a grade on. And he was there, and they took him. That's the way I understand it. Now, we'll see what happens in training camp for the preseason. And like we've always said on the show for 5 years, if someone blows it up in the preseason and they don't want to risk it because the guy's so good on tape, then they got a tough decision to make because you're not keeping 4 quarterbacks. That ain't happening. So
no.
And then, of course, McKee could beat out Ian Book under that scenario.
Could be. So the thought process that I put into this, because I had the same 3 guys, Jalen Hurts, Marcus Mariota, and Ian Book, is that the Eagles really haven't hit the last few years on these sort of day 3 QBs or late pickup QBs. Certainly Carson Strong did not work out for them. Clayton Thorson did not work out for them. I think there was another quarterback in between then that I'm thinking of that did not work out for them. It wasn't a big deal. He was like either a rookie free agent or something like that. But Tanner McKee's going to play behind, a third string offensive line, all camp. He's not very mobile, so he's not going to be able to wow people by getting out of the pocket and making splash plays. And I don't think he's going to like tear it up, have this great preseason, then you worry about waiving him. I could be completely wrong, but I just think with Ian Book being year 2, fitting the offense a little bit more, he's more liable to go out and make some plays in the preseason and want to get another look and another year out of him to see. So I have Ian Book as the third quarterback as well.
Yeah, and also Nate Sudfeld's a guy that I don't know if that's the guy you're thinking of, but they really had such high hope for Nate Sudfeld for a couple of years, and he just hit a wall. And he developed bad habits, staring down pass targets, and he just lost it. And he's been remember the Niners last summer. That the reason why that Brock Purdy made it is because Sudfeld was so bad. He was re-signed to be their number 2 quarterback with the Niners and gave him some guaranteed money. They wound up moving on from him. He struggled in training camp, and Purdy, because of certain things that happened, wound up being the 2 over time. And just never know about a quarterback. That's why you give the Niners credit. That the last quarterback in the draft last year, you never know. Like, well, this guy was drafted a little higher. AJ Feely, you never know when a guy's going to, even a third string quarterback, if the 2 gets hurt, the guy gets thrown in there, you never know. That's why you got to take this quarterback development seriously.
Yeah. The other guy, I think the other quarterback I'm thinking of wound up going to the Giants.
Thorson did, I think.
I thought Thorson went to the Cowboys. Did he go to the Giants first?
Yeah, I think he went to the Cowboys and the Giants.
Okay, maybe it was. I thought there was somebody else, but that's all right.
Right.
All right, let's move on to running back. You have kept 4. I kept 4 as well. And not surprisingly, they are the same 4.
What is your thought process on Sermon?
So my thought process is that what the Eagles probably get in Sermon, they already also get in the combination of Swift and Penny, which is a bulldozer type runner, a hard-nosed runner, a guy who has quick feet on the cut. I don't think Sermon's a huge catcher of the football. He was in college, although I do remember being told that people felt he could do it if need be, as far as dump offs and things like that. But between Swift and Penny, who we have to operate under the assumption right now they're going to be healthy. I know it's projection, but I just don't know that you're getting anything more out of Sermon that you couldn't get out of those 2. And of course, Kenny Gainwell gives you pass catching ability, third down back ability, along with Boston Scott, who gives you kick return ability as well. So I didn't find the room for Sermon, even though I know how much the coaches liked him and enjoyed him. I just don't know if these same coaches could have forecasted, going into this offseason that they were going to come out with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny also.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I just can't see a scenario of keeping 5 or cutting the other guys. Because Penny is a home run hitter type. He does have size. And then you got Swift, who could do a variety of things and handle red zone work and so forth. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how they work this rotation. It's going to be fascinating in training camp. I still believe Swift will wind up being the lead back, but we have no idea what that means. Is that 10 touches per game, 12, 8? Who the hell knows at this point, because they have so many running backs and they all offer something different. And that's kind of the cool thing about it.
Now, I also kept Boston Scott on the 53 for another reason that we'll get to.
Oh, okay.
Well, not for another reason. I think it's not just the kick return ability that I kept him on as the 4th running back 4, and we'll get to that in a second when we go to wide receiver. First, we're going to pause real quick to hear a word from some of our great sponsors. All right, Adam, we're going to move on to wide receiver here. You and I both kept 6 wide receivers. 5 of them are the same. Our 6th receiver is a little bit different. So you go through yours first.
Okay, so Brown, Smith, Zacchaeus, Watkins, and then this is where it gets interesting. We mentioned on a recent show that there absolutely is an opportunity for someone unheralded or undrafted free agent to push for a roster spot. We're not talking about Tyree Cleveland, who bounced around, at Greg Ward, who they've known, who's now with the team for on and off 6 years, and Devin Allen, who they from what we're told, they really want to see if he can become a receiver, not just a kick returner. and Hasselwood also is an undrafted free agent. But this Joe Nada from Clemson, if you look at the Eagles roster, they're very small. AJ Brown's the biggest guy. He's under 6'1".
Right.
They don't really have that big possession receiver. So my thinking, again, we're doing this in May. We're not doing this in August. But if Joe Nada has a good training camp in preseason, he probably will make the team because they just don't have that size. And look, size matters at receiver. You'd like to, for matchups, you'd like to be able to do that. He's 6'3", 1'8", 217. Long. Arms are very long. 33 and 1/8, 80 and 3/8 wingspan. Hands are big. You know, he's not fast. But for a guy as big as he's a 4.54 40, he's not too bad. Not terrible. So I'm going to put him on my initial list here in May, and we'll follow us up down the line. But that's the guy I'm going to go with as my 6th.
I like the reasoning, and I really
Oh,
I like it more than the reasoning that I have for my 6th guy. I mean, you're right. They do not have a lot of size at wide receiver. Now, it's not typical to keep a 6th receiver just for size, right? Normally, you're looking for some special teams, but just because he's big doesn't mean he can't be a good special teams contributor. That's something that'll have to work itself out throughout the OTAs and training camp. So I went with AJ Brown, of course, Devontae Smith, Zacchaeus, Quez Watkins, and I also have Britton Covey as my top 5. Now, I kept Devon Allen or Devin Allen. It's Devin Allen, right? The whole time they signed him last year, you and I knew he had almost no shot of making that roster. He hadn't played football in several years, and I looked at him as a 2-year project. We did get to see in the preseason on that deep post that he caught from, I want to say Minshew, was it? Where he caught a nice touchdown from Minshew on that deep post in one of those preseason games.
Yeah,
so he showed you speed.
Cleveland.
Yeah, right. So he's got speed, and I think he just came off the Penn relays. I think he won there again. So the speed's there. This is not like a Jeremy Bloom situation where it's all gone, right? There's no ankle flexion or anything like that. The speed's legit, and I think he's going to show it this camp. And I sort of banked on him to make the team as a kick returner. Britton Covey as the punt returner, Devin Allen as the kick returner. So that gives them 6 receivers. And you might ask, well, Geoff, if Devin Allen's going to return kicks and Covey's going to return punts, why did you keep Boston Scott on the roster, right? I alluded that I kept Boston Scott for more than just one reason, and it's not just kick return ability. If I'm going to keep DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny as my top 2 running backs, and I know that these guys have both been, considerably injured throughout their career, I just don't think this team wants to cut Boston Scott and bring him back to the practice squad. I think they can. I mean, he's served a small but valuable role for quite a while, and he's reliable. So even if he's not going to return kicks, I can see him either being inactive if need be and just there to have if there's injured running backs, or playing those 3 to 5 snaps a game because the Eagles always have injuries at that position, especially with those first 2 guys.
Yeah, I see. You and I agree on Covey. And one thing that we saw in OTAs last year, and we didn't see it much in the season because they didn't really use him other than punt returner. This guy's got quick feet to be a slot receiver.
Yeah.
If he makes it, which the odds are poor that he'll make it, if he does make it, Zacchaeus and Covey could be your slots, and they could have Watkins be back where he really needs to be, is on the outside. Who's miscast in that slot role, because you want the inside receiver to make those difficult catches. It's not really what he does. And Covey and Zacchaeus could do this. Zacchaeus' hands have really improved. Catches almost everything thrown to him. He wasn't like this in Virginia in college much, but he could do it here. And now Joe Nani make a great point. We need to check into this to see if he can cover in specials. If he can, that'll certainly really help him. But yeah, so you and I disagree on that. Oh, by the way, Boston Scott's guaranteed signing of $1.08 million. It's bigger than Penny's guaranteed signing, and just about all those Justin Evans bigger than Justin Evans.
Yep,
and bigger than Edmonds. So that's another reason why Scott should go.
Yeah, I agree. I just have a hard time cutting Boston Scott, knowing the small but significant role that he's had for this team over the last few years. Plus, obviously, you're going to need him on Christmas to have 3 touchdowns and 180 total yards against the Giants. So everybody's expecting that.
Is it 10? Is he 10?
10 in 9 games. 10 touchdowns, 9 games, I believe is what it is. Unbelievable. And And by the way, yeah, and by the way, I sort of I'm going out on a limb here, and I do wonder if they can turn Devin Allen also into a punt returner. If he
Oh,
can show that he can return punts and kicks, I would say Britton Covey might be a 1 year wonder for the or
oh,
1 year guy for the Eagles. Yeah.
yes, I didn't even think of that. We'll keep an eye on that in OTAs. But so that would be quarterback, running back, and a wide receiver.
All right, let's move on to tight end. Now, I thought you and I were going to disagree on this. We did not. The same number of players, the same players in general. You have who?
So I've got a Goddard, Stoll, and Calcaterra. See, it's tough to do this. Again, it's the first time we've done this. I kind of wanted to keep Arnold or Tyree Jackson because the problem that you have is when we get in defense next week. I just started doing my write up, just kind of my initial thoughts, and they're going to be heavy on defense. It's the way it is.
Yep.
So it's hard for me to keep 4 tight ends. It's just, and Dan Arnold, the good thing is that he is a vested veteran. So if you just go to the practice squad, he's not subject to being waived where Tyree Jackson would be. Something to keep an eye on.
Right. I completely agree with you. I also went more defense than offense as far as numbers. I think I did 24 on offense and 26 on defense. So that's 50. And then obviously the 3 specialists. So I did go short of tight end. Adam, I think that concerns that the Eagles might have had, say, last year about losing a Tyree Jackson or even the year before because he had been such a good story of development so quickly are not the same because of the injuries that he's had, because he has not played a whole lot. I feel like Tyree Jackson can go have a decent camp and still get through waivers and, come back to the practice squad without as much fear or concern now that you're really losing out on somebody. So I have Dallas Goedert as well. I have Jack Stoll number 2. Grant Calcaterra showed us something. He showed us that he can catch the ball in the middle of his zone. He can sit down. He can turn. He can do what you expect him to do from a detached tight end. He even blocked a little bit better than you thought. So we're not turning him into what's his face from the 49ers here, Kittle. Right, but he showed you a little something there, and if Dallas Goedert were to get hurt, of course you have Stoll for sort of the blocking and the inline stuff, but you'd like a little bit more of a field stretcher there. So, and I think Grant Calcaterra, being younger and the cost control there, you would just keep him. So no Tyree Jackson for me. I imagine you might be able to get him back on the practice squad. No Dan Arnold for me. I think the same thing. Dalton Keene, Brady Russell, not going to make it. But that's 4 tight ends that you got a chance to at least 1 or 2 of them bring back to the practice squad.
Oh, no doubt. So okay, that's tight end, and now we're on to. We'll go to. You want to go guard? I guess we can go guard.
Let's go guard. Yeah, let's go guard first.
This was tough because I think we would all agree. It just depends on how this goes, but the lack of experience that they have in terms of depth, other than Driscoll, who could start, by the way, if he does start, where's your experience for the backups, backup center and backup guard? They just wouldn't have any. So that's where adding someone in training camp before the season starts, to me, would be paramount. You got to be careful. You don't want to get caught short-handed, but there are enough journeymen out there still. So guards, right. I've got 5.
You have 5.
Dickerson obviously is a left guard. Tyler Steen, he's going to play guard, not tackle. Although I do wonder if they don't have to cross chain but tackle. He play tackle, but will they still give him tackle reps in training camp? We'll keep an eye on that. Bush Jurgens being for the right guard job, and he'll be the backup center. If he doesn't win the right guard job. Jack Driscoll with Jack of all trades. Tyrese Robinson, no, I'm not having him on the roster, but this is one I struggle with. Suapeta, been here since 2019, on and off the active roster, practice squad. Had an injury at one point. I'm having on it now because we don't have that veteran on it. But I reserve the right to change it the next time we do this. If they sign a veteran, that guy's going to take that fifth spot.
Right. Okay, it's interesting because overall you kept not. We'll get to more. You kept 9 offensive linemen, whereas I kept 8. So I went a little shorter on guard than you did. I have Landon Dickerson, of course. I have Tyler Steen, of course. I have Cam Jurgens, and I have Driscoll. So those would be my 4 guards. I It depends on what you consider Roderick Johnson. I considered him more of a swing tackle, so I kept him on. And we'll get to him in a second, but I did not keep Opeta or Tyrese Robinson. Opeta's limited now. It feels like this team, Adam, has more swing guys, right? Driscoll's a swing guy. Juergens, they imagine to be a swing guy. Tyler Steen has all tackle experience who they're trying at guard. So that's three guys right there who can play guard center or guard tackle. So that's why I sort of look at Sua Opeta and say, all you are is a guard. And you really haven't established yourself as anything other than a decent backup at times, adequate backup. So I did not go with Sua Opeta this time around, but I certainly understand why you would.
Yeah, and that's why I said, to me, they really need to sign a veteran interior backup center / guard that would really behoove them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, as we transition over to center, I don't know that Cameron Tom, who's been a center, whether it's the Dolphins or Saints or the Eagles, I don't know if they look at him as a guard as well. I don't recall that. We'll learn more, because that would alleviate that issue, and that would eliminate Opeta from the roster.
Right.
But center is obviously Kelsey. Juergens, if he doesn't win the right guard job, would be the backup. And now we have the final position, the offensive tackle.
Yes, offensive tackle. So again, you and I both kept basically one natural center in Jason Kelsey, and then tackles you kept three.
Now remember, Jack Driscoll would be that swing tackle. Literally,
Right.
he's really the jack of all trades. He really played the four offensive positions, offensive line positions. So, but I'm keeping it there again, because we're doing this in May. I'm keeping Driscoll at right guard for now, letting him see if he can win that. And if he loses it, he'll be the fourth tackle. So it's Mailata, Johnson, your starters. Now, Fred Johnson, the reason why I have him on the roster over Roger Johnson is Fred Johnson's actually started games. He was at one point sort of in and out of the lineup for the Bengals. Really tall guy, big guy who can play guard as well. That helps him. That gives him that positional versatility. Now, is he the veteran that they think is that guy to be the the guard tackle? Possibly. That's why I'm going to keep on the roster for now. But again, it doesn't preclude them from adding somebody else. So I just have it Mailata, Lane Johnson, and Fred Johnson, Roger Johnson, Brett Toth, Jared Williams, Jolinko Jones, Chimo Porpor, Trevor Reed. Now, last year it was Sills who made it, right?
Mm-hmm. Josh Sills, right. Who, by the way, is still on the team. He's on the commissioner's exempt list. Yep. So that could change in a heartbeat if he gets cleared, or if he, whatever happens to him legally clears up, he's back on the team, and then you'd have to consider him in the mix. But we didn't for the purposes of this show.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm with you with obviously Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson. I went with Roderick Johnson over Fred Johnson. And I do want to remind, Roderick Johnson has started games, not as many as Fred, but he has started 6 games in the NFL. He started 3 in 2019 with Houston. He started 3 more in 2020 with Houston. He is a guy who had a pretty good college career. And he's been with a couple of teams now. He's 6'6", 6'7", 300. Probably too tall for guard at 6'7". So I don't know that he has any kind of positional versatility, but I believe he's a little younger than Fred Johnson. And he was a 5th round pick by the Browns at one point. And, so to me, it just came down to, do they go with a guy who's been around the block for a little bit and Fred Johnson, or do they try to groom up a guy who may have a little bit more potential and who's also started some games? But, you could probably argue, and I think Andrew DeCecco did this in his story, that neither of them make it, but Brett Toth does, because Brett has actually continued to find his way back onto this team, even when they had reasons to just, part ways. He had the injury, missed all the year, came back. They did waive him, but then they brought him back.
Yeah. By the way, Roderick Johnson is older than Fred Johnson, almost 2 years.
Is he? For some reason, I thought Fred was older. That shocks me.
No, it's funny because I would have said that, because I remember, I think 3 or 4 years ago, Fred Johnson was, I don't want to say highly thought of by the Bengals, but he was in the mix to be no worse than their 6 offensive linemen. But
right.
Yeah, Brett Toth is a guy that he's just, unfortunately, he's been hurt on ACL injury, other injuries, but they keep bringing him back, so they like him enough. And they also work him in a guard, who is really more of a tackle. Mm-hmm. They love the positional versatility guys. So the toughest questions are, to me, well, it's not even a question. There's a wonderful opportunity here for somebody to have a great offseason and training camp and make the roster as the fifth or sixth receiver. And there's also an opportunity for Okorafor or Trevor Reed. I know Julian Good-Jones has been on this team before. He's back after an absence. Toth, Roger Johnson, whoever you want to mention, there's certainly an opportunity for one of these guys to take for two.
Yeah. All right, we're going to put a bow on this in a second. I got a question to ask you. First, I want to let everybody know about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. Make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick and hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to go into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right. I think you would agree that doing the defense was a little bit tougher than the offense.
Oh, way harder. Oh.
Way harder. Okay. What was your most difficult sort of keep this guy, cut that guy on offense?
The things I know, they just have to find that. And it could be, see, the problem is because we're doing this now, Driscoll could still win the right guard job. My money would be on Steen, but what if Driscoll wins the right guard job? Well, who's your swing tackle?
Who is your, I guess it would be Steen, or for you, Fred Johnson. For me, Roderick Johnson, although calling them swing is a little bit of a stretch, right? Because then it's not like they've specialized in both tackle spots.
Right. Well, but again, the Driscoll does both, and that's the problem. It's like you're taking him.
Yeah, but he's really a right. I mean, your question is valid. If Tyler Steens wins right guard, right?
Yeah.
Who would be the backup left tackle? I think it's a great question.
Well, Driscoll technically, but
yeah, but we know that that's not ideal, and if they could find someone better, yeah,
they really need to. Someone who's longer. Yeah, he was at left tackle early in his career at UMass, I think.
Maybe, yeah. No,
so,
Connecticut.
Okay, wherever he went. Yeah. So, or Auburn. But the bottom line is, we always say this on our show over the 5 years. What's your answer? This guy gets hurt. You don't. They rolled the dice and rolled double sixes at corner because they didn't get hurt. They were lucky that they didn't have to go to McPherson 4-5.
Right.
That you're asking for trouble, man. With this roster being as good as it is, this is a championship type roster. You don't want to have your season torpedoed because you're playing a guy who shouldn't even be on the roster, which is basically hanging on. You know what I mean? You'd like to have someone you feel good about. Like Driscoll is a guy who can get you out of a tough spot for 3, 4, 5 games. That's probably the best you can get. But asking Roderick Johnson or Fred Johnson, I don't know if they're Driscoll's probably a better football player.
Yeah, no, you're probably right about that. You're probably right. And by the way, he did go to UMass. He's from Connecticut, went to UMass, transferred to Auburn. I wonder how many guys start off their career at a school as small as UMass and then go to Auburn and finish their career.
That might be a first go from the whatever conference that is to the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. Guys go from like a community college that's known for football, like Butte, right? Isn't that where Aaron Rodgers went first before going, right? But not like UMass.
That's weird, man. That's a weird one. But but defense to me, what I've struggled with before we get out of here is okay. They have so many corners now. I get it; they're not super high end, the backup guys, but they drafted the biggest. There are a lot of analytic picks. There's a lot of analytic data matches here with Garner, with Briggs in terms of certain measurables. So they're going to get a little bit of a benefit. Okay, are we going to put Moro Jomo? There's all of a sudden they have depth, or at least they're deeper. We'll see how quality the quality is the defensive cap group.
100%. D line was really difficult.
I don't want to. I'm like, this is hard, man. I love the challenge though, because it's kind of like when you do a mock draft. You know you're going to be wrong. There's nothing you do about it.
Right.
This is harder in a way because you think you know the roster, and you put yourself in the front office's shoes and the coaches, and all of a sudden, which was not a good position of depth last year at D tackle, all of a sudden, even though you lost one guy who was high priced, you have these young players, you bring in Street, Ojomo, who's interesting, Jalen Carter.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, you have some decisions in terms of roster and rotation.
No doubt about it. So you will hear about our difficult decisions on defense in the next podcast. That one will drop Monday morning. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.